Even though everyone develops at slightly different paces, almost everyone hits the same general developmental milestones and learns the same sets of skills at about the same time, more or less. These are things like language and communication, socializing, cognitive skills like problem solving, and physical milestones like walking, crawling, and fine motor skills, all of which progress as the brain develops. If one of these doesn't develop as scheduled, depending on the severity, it may be described as a type of neurodevelopmental disorder, neuro referring to the brain. Especially when certain skills related to socializing and communicating don't proceed as normally, it can result in isolation, which is where the name autism originated, since auto means self. So autism refers to a condition where somebody might be removed from social interaction and communication, leaving them alone or isolated. Autism spectrum disorder is thought to have a genetic cause, which ultimately affects brain development, specifically areas that affect social and communication behaviors. Which genes or combination of genes that are affected in autism spectrum disorder, though, is still very much a mystery. In addition, there are a bunch of environmental triggers that have to be explored, but at the moment there are no clear risk factors that have been identified. With that said, there is also no cure for autism spectrum disorder, and treatment or management has to be specifically and carefully tailored to each child. And this includes things like specialized education programs and behavior therapy that all seek to maximize quality of life and functional independence.
Dog. Temple. Dog. Temple. Cat. Cat. Temple. Troll. Mom. Me.
People. I don't understand people. Because the people at school know I don't understand them, and some of my friends anyway.
What don't you understand?
Girls get all goofy over boys. Talk about silly pop groups and clothes, and say things like, "Why are you so grumpy when I'm happy?" And I say, "I'm happy." And they say, "Well, you don't look happy." And I say, "Can't you see I'm thinking? And can't you see I'm sad?" And I don't know what they're talking about.
What do you look like when you're happy?
Like this. Sir, Scottsdale Feedlot signed off on my cattle agitation study.
Smells like half the herd signed it first.
No, sir, cattle can't do that.
With autism, it's usually been the kids whose faces we see when the topic is discussed. Children like these. We root for their success in school and on the playground, and we've come to recognize that even a little boy like this one, who may look disconnected and whose autism keeps him from speaking many words, nevertheless can sing, and therefore also has something to say. And the point is, adults don't get nearly the attention and support the kids do, maybe because they're not as cute or because people forget that autism is lifelong.
And I ask people what they understand by it. They tell me it looks something like this. Your quirky genius type. Stimming, bouncing, flapping, rocking, or my personal favorite, restricted interests. Yes, it is true that there are people with Asperger's who display these traits. It is also true that these are only stereotypes and a small part of the entire picture. If Asperger's were as easy to spot as this, then there would be no problem at all in diagnosing it. Unfortunately, Asperger's, like life, is far more complicated. And if you're a girl with Asperger's, things get even more tricky, because all the diagnostic tools that the professionals use were designed to spot Asperger's in boys. Now, this gender bias leaves thousands of Asperger girls undiagnosed, unsupported, sometimes even after they've taken the test. My younger brother was diagnosed as being on the spectrum when he was 3.5. His autism was obvious, or stereotypical. He was late to talk, he bounced and flapped his hands, and he wouldn't make eye contact. My parents took him to get an assessment done. Within 2 months, he was diagnosed, and the proper supports were put in place to help him. Fast forward 8 years, and he's doing just great. And then there was me. I didn't bounce. I didn't flap. I was a shy but diligent student. I got good grades, and I didn't cause trouble. But what I did do was hide under the table and cover my ears at lunchtime because the noise of my chatting peers was too much for me to cope with. I was quiet. I let others make up the rules of the games we played, and I shared my sparkly pens when no one else would. And it took 14 years for anyone to notice that I was struggling desperately. For many high-functioning girls, it takes even longer.
In the store.
In the store?
There are 9 of them in all, paired off together in a cluster of apartments in a complex where their neighbors are mostly retirees who have no autism connection. They eat together and learn together. 2 years of specialized training designed to improve their odds of having, let's call it, a successful adulthood. Why is it a big deal that Josh Kluger gets up every morning and makes his own breakfast and straightens up the place a little, and then remembers belatedly to go back and grab his lunch before he heads off to work, which takes a quarter-mile hike, texting all the way, before he reaches the bus stop, and then a 45-minute trip with one transfer along the way. And when I come on board and Josh shows me how to swipe my ticket...
And it comes back?
Yes.
Why is that a big deal? Because until last year, Josh had experienced none of this. No apartment, no paying job, no bus pass even. Actually, he'd never ridden a bus on his own before last year.
How old are you now?
I'm 36.
You only really began being able to ride the bus when you were already over 30.
I think so, yes.
What did you have to learn?
Oh, I learned how the streets.
Before you came here, where were you? Were you in high school?
I was in my parents' house for at least 2 years. I enrolled, and here I am now, a year later. I am satisfied with my future.
What is your future? Do you know?
It's hard to predict right now.
Sure.
It's a brief idea. I'd like to live in an apartment, pay my own rent, have my own car, and have a career, in other words. Because the part-time jobs is kind of tedious, but it's my main focus for now.
Well, that's all about learning how to do jobs, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Josh's mom has been astounded by the change she's seen in the past 12 months.
There are so many ways that he has changed and grown, that he's going to school, he's learning classes, he's taking responsibilities for his homework, he's taking responsibility for his budgeting.
This is all new.
This is all new.
This is something he's learned as a middle-aged man.
As a middle-aged man.
Wow.
The growth has been amazing. It's truly been amazing.
If Josh were not here, where would he be in life?
At our house, doing probably the same thing and not being very happy. And I don't know what his future would have been.
So on the worksheet, guys, you are putting a check mark for the items that you're going to need to purchase in your first apartment.
And support staff literally imparts lessons on the logistics of adult life, like this session, held in a lecture hall made available by Gateway Community College. It's a class on how to navigate the options available in public transport, how to get from here to there, with quizzes.
Ian, other ones? Exact fare required.
Exact fare required.
When it comes to successful adulthood, it's this sort of mundane-seeming know-how that in fact can be crucial.
How important is that to their success in this program?
Yeah, it's critical. You know, it's one of the skills that we target really early on. I mean, again, this is the thing that's going to allow them to access employment. It's going to allow them to access different social activities, different quality of life things.
So getting around is key to independence, then?
Absolutely. It's critical.
would not go to sleep till maybe midnight and would get up at 3 o'clock and he would be up for the day. And that went on for years. And because of the lack of sleep, I've never really been able to work outside the home.
It's hard enough taking the kid to school and then to finding this beach, and then you have to quit your job usually to do this all the time, to take them to all the appointments and to work with them at home, so you can't work, and then you're told that you need to basically make twice as much to pay for all that.
Next 10 years, 500,000 young adults will age out of school-based services. Who's going to take care of them? Where are the jobs? Where are the opportunities for independent living? And what's going to happen to them when their parents die?